forest does not announce itself when it decides to watch you. It simply grows quieter, heavier, as if every living thing has agreed to remain still long enough to observe what will happen next. In the deepest regions of northern Brazil, where the Amazon stretches endlessly and the ground remembers footsteps long after they fade, there is a sound that does not belong to any animal cataloged by science, any bird studied by biologists, or any wind explained by weather. It is a sound that feels intentional, personal, directed, a whistle, long, thin, and uneven, as if blown through lungs that were never meant to breathe. The people who live there do not mistake it for nature. They never have. They know that when the whistle begins, the night has chosen someone. They call her Matinta Pereira. No one remembers the first time her name was spoken, because by the time memory learned how to record itself, the legend already existed. It passed from mouth to mouth in whispers, in warnings disguised as bedtime stories, in the careful rituals performed before nightfall. Some elders say Matinta was once a woman cursed by her own hunger. Others insist she was a midwife, a healer, someone who knew too much and asked for more. But every version agrees on one thing: she made a choice, and the forest never forgets a bargain. Long before villages stood on stilts above the damp earth, before paths were carved between trees like open wounds, there lived a woman who refused to accept the limits of being human. She wanted time that did not decay her body, food that did not run out, and power that could not be taken away. When sickness came, she wanted to command it. When death approached, she wanted to turn it away. On a moonless night, when the forest pressed close and the insects fell silent, as if sensing an intrusion, she spoke into the darkness. She did not pray. She did not beg. She negotiated. Something listened. The pact was not written, but it was binding. She would gain what she desired, but she would no longer belong fully to the world of people. Her body would bend, her voice would change, her hunger would evolve, and when night fell, she would answer to the forest itself. That was when the whistle was born. By day, she could still pass among humans. A bent-old woman, wrapped in cloth, her eyes sharp despite her age. She moved quietly, spoke little, and watched everything. By night, the transformation began. Bones twisted under skin that burned and stretched. Her spine curved unnaturally. Wings tore their way through flesh that had long since stopped feeling pain. Her mouth reshaped itself into something capable of producing that sound, the whistle that travels far beyond normal distance, the call that slips through walls and dreams alike. Matinta Pereira became a collector of promises. When she whistles at a house, it is not random, it is deliberate. She chooses homes where fear already lives, quietly, where doubt lingers, where curiosity outweighs caution. If you answer a call, if you offer what she asks for, usually tobacco, she moves on, satisfied for another night. If you ignore her, if you pretend she is not real, if you believe yourself smarter than the old rules, she takes something else instead. The village learned this long ago. During the day, it looks harmless, almost welcoming. Smoke curls lazily from cooking fires, dogs sleep beneath wooden steps, children run barefoot, laughing, unaware of how closely the forest watches them. But as the sun begins to sink, the rhythm changes. Doors close, windows are secured, conversations lower into murmurs. Every household keeps a small pouch of tobacco hidden away, untouched unless absolutely necessary. Just in case. Because everyone knows that belief is not optional in the forest. It is survival. Lucas did not understand this when he arrived. He came from the city, carrying recording equipment, notebooks, and the quiet arrogance of someone who thought fear could be analyzed and archived. He had read about Matinta Pereira in books and articles, reduced to folklore, symbolism, a narrative tool used to enforce behavior. He believed myths existed to explain ignorance, not reality. The villagers warned him anyway. They told him not to wander at night, not to follow sounds, not to answer whistles, no matter how close they seemed. Lucas smiled, thanked them, and continued setting up his equipment. He told himself he was documenting culture, preserving stories before they disappeared. On his second night, the forest fell silent. The transition was subtle at first. Insects stopped chirping. The wind slowed until the leaves froze mid-motion. The air grew thick, pressing against his skin like damp cloth. Then the whistle began. It was distant at first, stretched thin across the darkness. Lucas tilted his head, frowning, adjusting his recorder. The sound did not behave like an echo. It did not fade naturally. Instead, it folded inward, circling, growing closer without ever increasing in volume. His chest tightened. The whistle stopped. A voice replaced it, low, dry, almost amused. "Tomorrow." "Give me tobacco." Lucas stood frozen, his heart pounding violently against his ribs. He laughed nervously, forcing the sound out of his throat to break the tension. He stepped onto the porch, shining his flashlight into the trees. The beam revealed nothing. No movement, no footprints, no explanation. The next morning, the village noticed the change immediately. Lucas looked pale, exhausted, his hand shaken slightly as he bought tobacco from the small market. No one asked why. They already knew. The elders watched him with quiet pity because they had seen this before. Curiosity always walked faster than caution. That night, the whistle returned closer, stronger. It did not stay outside. It slid through the cracks in the walls, crept beneath the door, vibrated inside Lucas's skull. He covered his ears, but it made no difference. The sound was not entering from the outside anymore. It was already inside him. Scratching followed. Slow, deliberate movements dragged across the wooden walls. Something circled the house, its presence heavy enough to bend the air. Lucas shouted, demanded it leave him alone, his voice cracking with fear he no longer bothered to hide. The whistle turned into laughter, a sound full of patience, a sound that knew time was on its side. Lucas did not sleep. When dawn finally arrived, the villagers gathered outside his house. The door was open. His equipment lay scattered across the floor. The recorder was still running, capturing only static and the faint echo of a whistle that refused to end. Lucas was gone, and deep in the forest, something listened. The forest did not give Lucas back, but it did not stay silent either. After his disappearance, the whistle returned more often, drifting through the village on nights when the moon hid behind thick clouds and the air felt heavier than usual. It no longer sounded curious or testing. It sounded confident, satisfied, as if something ancient had been fed and now expected to be fed again. The elders gathered in the largest house, speaking in low voices, because fear has a way of sharpening memory. They remembered other outsiders, other skeptics, other names that slowly faded into the forest without leaving behind a body. They remembered promises broken and warnings ignored. And they knew that Matinta Pereira had grown restless. One of the elders finally spoke what no one wanted to admit. She is changing. The forest had changed too. Animals were found dead without signs of attack. Trees near the village showed deep marks, as if something with claws had climbed them repeatedly. Children began waking from nightmares, describing a shadow perched on rooftops, watching through the night, waiting for someone to answer. The whistle no longer stayed at the edges of the village. It walked between houses. According to the oldest stories, Matinta was never meant to linger. She was a wanderer, a consequence, a reminder of bargains gone wrong. But something about Lucas's presence had disrupted the balance. He had not just ignored the rules. He had recorded them, studied them, tried to dissect them, and the forest does not like being dissected. 3 nights after Lucas vanished, the whistle came again, but this time it did not ask for tobacco. It asked for something else, a child's name. That was when panic took root. The villagers knew that Matinta fed on more than offerings. She fed on fear, curiosity, and recognition. The more she was acknowledged, the more solid she became. The elders decided they could no longer wait. They would have to confront what remained of the legend's origin. Deep in the forest, far from the village paths, there was a place no one visited willingly, a clearing where the trees bent inward unnaturally, their roots exposed like ribs pushing through skin. The ground there was always cold, even under the sun. The elders said that was where the pact was sealed, where the woman who became Matinta stopped being fully human. At dawn, they went there. They carried tobacco, salt, and old prayers learned from mouths long since buried. The forest resisted them every step of the way. Branches snagged their clothes. The air pressed against their lungs. Sounds echoed where no echoes should exist. At the center of the clearing, they found what they feared. Bones. Human bones. Fused with feathers. Blackened by age. A skull split and reshaped its jaw, extended unnaturally, frozen forever in the shape of a whistle. This was not a grave. It was an anchor. Matinta Pereira was not bound to one body. She was bound to a promise. As long as the forest remembered her hunger, she could never fully die. She shed bodies the way snakes shed skin, but the pact remained intact, renewing itself every time someone answered her call, every time someone believed too late. That night, the whistle did not come from the forest. It came from inside the village. People bolted their doors, trembling, clutching their offerings. The sound moved slowly, deliberately, stopping at certain houses longer than others. When it reached Lucas's abandoned home, it paused. Then it changed. The whistle deepened, warping into something closer to breathing. Heavy wings scraped against rooftops. Shadows twisted unnaturally under the moonlight, merging and separating as if unsure which shape to wear. Someone screamed. The elders stepped outside, chanting words meant to weaken spirits, but the sound only amused her. Matinta descended, her form finally visible under the pale light. She was taller than any human, hunched but massive, her wings folded awkwardly against a body that still carried hints of womanhood. Her eyes burned with intelligence, not madness. Her mouth opened, and the whistle poured out, stronger than ever. She was no longer hunting individuals. She was claiming territory. The elders understood then what Lucas had unknowingly accelerated. By recording the legend, by giving it attention beyond the forest, he had fed her in a new way. Stories, travel, fear spreads, and Matinta learns. They had one option left. The pact could not be broken, but it could be transferred. Someone would have to answer the whistle willingly. Someone would have to accept the hunger, the transformation, the endless nights. Someone would have to become the next Matinta Pereira. Silence followed the realization. No one volunteered. That was when the whistle stopped abruptly. The forest inhaled. A voice spoke, close to the elder's ears, layered with something familiar. Lucas's voice. I understand now. The shadow shifted, and for a brief moment, Lucas's face surfaced within the creature's form. Stretched and distorted, eyes wide with terror and comprehension. He had not been killed. He had been taught. Slowly, patiently. Matinta Pereira did not need a replacement. She had already found an apprentice. The whistle returned. Louder, more controlled, more precise. It carried new tones now, human tones. The elders fell to their knees, realizing the truth too late. The legend had evolved, and somewhere far beyond the forest, someone listening through headphones felt a chill run down their spine, unable to explain why a thin, distant whistle seemed to echo just behind their thoughts. Because stories, once heard, are never truly silent, and Matinta Pereira listens to everyone who listens to her. When the night grows to still, when the sound comes without warning, remember this: do not answer, do not follow, do not believe you are safe, because the whistle is not calling for help. It is calling for you